Hello and welcome back to the United Front Football Podcast. I nearly forgot what it was called then. It's been,
It's been a while, to be fair.
it's been a couple of weeks since recorded, yeah. So apologies for the slight delay. There was Breezy was away and then he was ill, so there's been a few bits going on. But we're back, and boy, have we got some stuff to talk about. We've just watched the most insane game of football, the Chelsea v Spurs game, but we will get onto that in a little bit. We've got a few things to get out of the way. Well, get out of the way first. This, stuff we enjoy doing. Every time we record, we ask you on Twitter to give your wild takes and hot opinions, and if we like them, we'll stick them on here and reply to them. And we've got a few to get on with. I think there's a couple that you want to get started with, Breezy. So we'll hand over to you to get going.
Yeah, so this is we've got two here one from Wolverhampton and one from Keeney. It's in relation to the Arsenal-Newcastle game from the weekend. Wald's come in saying, I don't get what Arsenal's statement is about. The only controversial calls in the match of the weekend was Bruno's elbow and the Havertz tackle. I think both should have seen reds. They should be more worried about one shot on target from 14 shots. Fair. Yeah. And Keeney's followed up with, has Arteta made an arse of it by keeping Raya in goal? I understand that the modern keeper has to be good with his feet, but he's not good with his hands and has made a few mistakes recently. Ramsdale must be raging at being benched.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both points, kind of. I mean, the thing with Raya is he doesn't look like the player he was last year. I thought last year he was one of the better keepers. I'd say out of the... I think the common kind of belief is you've got the two best keepers in the league, like Ederson and Alisson. Then they are some of the best keepers in the world.
Yeah.
Then there's a really a good pool of very good keepers behind that. And I'd have put him in that last year. I thought he was excellent. I thought he was good, whether it be with his feet or shot stopping or commanding his area. When I found out he was going on loan to Arsenal, I thought, why didn't United go in for him? If we really want a keeper, a modern style keeper, we could have got him on loan. We should have done that maybe, but. He looks so shaky and so unsure of himself right now, and I think just maybe the pressure of a mistake, and then you saw it with Onana as well. So, sorry to bring it back to Onana, but it shakes goalkeepers for a little while, and I wonder whether he's just been sticking it with him until he finds his form, and he just ain't finding his form. Whilst in the meantime, as Keeney says, there's England number 2 keeper on your bench who. I don't think he was exceptional last year, but I think he was solid. He's definitely got a better understanding with the defenders in front of him because it's pretty much the same back line. Well, it's the same back line. So maybe bringing him in would be a good shout.
I've got to say, I've never been people who've heard me talk about Ramsdale for the last sort of year or so. I've never been I don't think he's a terrible goalkeeper. I've just never sort of bought into the hype. I think a lot of I think when he first joined Arsenal, I think there was a lot of goodwill towards him because of the abuse he suffered when he first joined. Arsenal fans tweeted him, telling him to fuck off, basically. So I think there was a lot of goodwill and sort of wanting him to do well, sort of thing. And off the back of that, and he was good. Like I said, I don't want to say he was bad or anything, but I've always felt I think I've said this before on here. I've always felt there's an element of sort of shakiness about him, especially in big games. When the sort of pressure's off, he pulls off some absolute worldies and looks really solid, but. I thought particularly in that sort of run-in last year where it all kind of fell apart for Arsenal. Not that he was necessarily, you could sort of pinpoint most of the goals they let in or most of the defeats they had on him per se, but there was a few moments you look at sort of goals that went in, you think, maybe could have done a little bit better there. And I've got to say as well, obviously West Ham played Arsenal in the League Cup the other night and got our only win of the last 7 games or so. But I thought there's an argument to say Ramsdale should be doing better with 2 of the 3 goals that we scored against them, like the Bowen one, and it takes a deflection, so it's probably harsh to blame him for. But there's question marks over the first one. I know there's a question about him being fouled by Souček and stuff. But I didn't think he covered himself in glory against us the other night. And with Raya, I do wonder if it's the case of at Brentford's, he didn't really have any stiff competition behind him ready to take his spot. Whereas such a big thing has been made about the 2 of them. It's like Ramsdale must have it in his head. And same with Raya. They both must have this thing of if we have a cock up here, we could be on the bench next week because we know the guy waiting in the wings is a really good goalkeeper. And so also, it must have added a lot of pressure on them.
Let's not forget how good that back line at Brentford was as well. Maybe the quality of the chances were lesser or they were just better drilled, used to each other. I couldn't possibly say, but Brentford as a defensive unit are a very good defensive unit. Not that Arsenal are poor defensively, but it's a different kind. There's a different expectation like between the two clubs. So yeah, maybe
absolutely.
it could be that. I think Ward's got a really good point as well. I think the Arsenal statement's bizarre. The kind of mini meltdown that Arteta had, and then the Arsenal statement is very confusing. But I think it is all to take the attention away from the fact that Arsenal were just a bit crap. You know, the Newcastle goal was it could have been pulled back for numerous reasons. You know, the fact that we've evolved as far as a species, yet Arsenal fans still don't seem to understand what a sphere is really weird. Like, like maybe there was a push. Maybe the goal could have been chalked off, but yeah, like
it happens, man.
But it's the flow of the game. Like when United played Arsenal, and we had that really tight offside, and then there was the foul from Gabriel that, based off every other penalty that's been given this year, should have been a penalty. Arsenal like, stop whinging about it. It all works out over the course of the season. Well, there's you working out over the course of the season.
Well, Arteta said himself, didn't he? I think Arteta was talking about when the whole thing happened. I think it was with Liverpool and Spurs, or it may have not been that one. Maybe a different decision where he's basically saying like, "Oh well, you know, referees make mistakes, and we've got to support them."
Yeah.
And you know, it's just part
until
and
it's
parcel
against
of the game. Which is like, I don't know, like, and I think even with the goal, right? Like, I know, like we'll come on to a little bit later, but like the question of the push on Gabriel. Isak did a very similar thing to Aged when West Ham played Newcastle earlier this season. And it's one of them, you look at it and go, like, as a West Ham fan being on the receiving end of it, I'm like, yeah, that's annoying because it looks like a foul. But at the same point, it's like one of them, if we'd scored that and it got disallowed, I'd be sitting there going, it's too soft. Can't disallow it for a push in the back. It's too soft. I think it's just one of them. Sometimes one referee will give it, one referee won't. Like, it's just... Like you say, it's just part of the course.
In the speed of the game, it's not like he ran up behind him and shoved him over.
No.
It was, you're running in, like, you're both running towards a ball and there's a guy in front of you. So you're like, you do that. It's not like he's like shoving him over to get an advantage. It's just a collision. Like, and you see it all over the pitch. Yeah, maybe it's a foul somewhere else on the pitch, but it's a soft foul. And it's one that, you know, Arsenal fans, if it leads to a free kick that leads to a goal, then Arsenal fans will be whinging about it as well. So
exactly,
yeah,
I do think whenever I've seen Arsenal this year, I've already sort of said it publicly, but I've noticed it the few games I've watched them when he's been playing for them. Because Jorginho's been playing a lot more games for Arsenal the last sort of few weeks. I think they're worse with him in the team. A lot sort of made about Havertz, and like, I get it because he cost 65 mil and he's really not looking like a smart investment, really, because he's not really offering much to the starting 11. Aside from allowing Rice to get further forward, and I know Partey's not available right now, but aside from letting Rice to get further forward, I don't really see what Jorginho brings to that Arsenal team. And I think now it's sort of time to let Rice sort of be the sitter for now until Partey's back, and just because I just don't see what Jorginho offers. And I thought the same when he was at Chelsea as well.
Yeah. Like, he's fine. Like, he had a purple patch of like 3 or 4 years where he was genuinely really, really good. He was really influential in that Italy team that won the Euros as well.
Yeah,
he was a big part of that Chelsea team that won the Champions League, and like, but that was 3 or 4 years ago now. And he was in his early 30s then. Like, he's slowing down. He slows the pace of the play down a lot. And I think a big thing with Arsenal this year is they seem a lot more ponderous. And I think he just adds to that. There's not as much snappiness. There's not as much like kind of direct football. It's a lot more. It feels like they've regressed this season, because that was what they felt like a couple of years ago, where they'd knock it around forever without really creating a whole lot of chances, and one shot in the entire match. As good as Newcastle are defensively, they're playing Jamal Lascelles.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know, like, this is a team that could have been got at.
Yeah, and like I've said this about them before this season, where it's like they don't look as like clinical or sort of aggressive in an offensive standpoint this season, but they do look a lot like in games they've won, they've looked a lot more solid and looked a lot more capable of grinding out wins where they weren't last season. So and I think Carragher said the same a few at the weekend. So that part of the game, in terms of sort of the sort of slow, ponderous style affecting that part of the game, I think is working well. But it's like in some games you just got to. It feels like you watch some games and you're waiting for them to turn it on and sort of just up the tempo a little bit and become a little bit more incisive. And like I say, it's all very one tempo, one note at the moment. Like, I don't think they're in a, you know, like with anything on social media, especially, you'd be forgiven thinking they're in some sort of crisis. They're fine, but they're not. And they may well be up there, depending on what City do for the rest of the year. They may well be in and about that sort. They'll be in the title race as close as you can get to a title race with the City team in the league, but they're still. they're missing something, and I don't know whether it's like just another man up top or a different type of central midfielder to go with Rice and Odegaard, but they're still missing something. But the good thing that they've got is they've got time on their side because that squad is so young. So they're in no rush to get there. Like Pep will leave City eventually, and I think Arsenal will be the next, probably them or Liverpool, the next best placed team to go and win the league after sort of City's dominance ends, if you know what I mean. But they've got time. I wouldn't say there's a real reason to panic for Arsenal just yet.
Yeah, I think the pressure is on a little bit though, because they did push it for so long last year. They've got, what is it, 6 years now? Or is it 5 years of Arteta under the belt? They've
5, I think.
A lot of money. Like, so
yes, it's true.
You've got to be like, there's got to be a point where the switch gets flicked, and it's like, okay, well, we need to win something now, whether it be a domestic cup or have a really good European run or do whatever. But you can only, I mean, speaking as a United fan, like we're the poster boys for overspending and underachieving. But like, once you've spent that amount of money and you're pushing for that, and that is your goal, is to be fighting at the top table, there's only so long you can go without it happening before you start having to ask questions about whether it be certain players or the manager or other things. It's like, well, what's holding us back here? Because we've got great players, we've got a great idea, we've got all this kind of stuff. It's like, how long do you wait until you go, yeah, maybe just he ain't the guy?
Yeah, it's a good point actually, because I was watching. I watched a lot of. I found myself watching some AFTV stuff after we knocked him out of the League Cup the other night, as you do, and
with a glass of wine.
Yeah,
fantastic. Glass of wine and a cigarette.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely. What an evening. But like, someone made a good point, because I think it might have been Robbie who was like, "Oh well, or a few of them were like, "Oh well, it's just the League Cup and sort of thing." And like, I think one of the guys sort of was a bit like, "Well, no, like." What, you can't have this myth of like, oh, if you want to challenge for the league, we have to like not take the cup seriously. It's like we should have a squad capable of doing both. And like, this wasn't, as much as some Arsenal fans might have you believe, this wasn't their reserves they put out against us the other night. Like, they still had Havertz starting, they still had Nketiah up front, who was just gone off the back of scoring a hat trick. Like, it was a pretty like Ben White in the team. It was a pretty decent Arsenal 11 they started with, and they just looked all over the shop. And like, so it's like I said, well, in terms of the league, I think they've got time, but I do agree. Actually, I think they should be maybe more focused on actually going for like I speak about it before, get him in that habit of winning. Get like go win the League Cup, like try and go for the FA Cup again, try and go as far as you can in the Champions League. Like the league, you can afford to lose games here and there throughout a season, but it's like cups, like you have one bad game, you fucked it for another year.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think maybe for them, like, I know he's won a couple of FA Cups when he first sort of come in, but I think with this particular crop of players, he needs to get them used to winning and having that sort of winning mentality. Otherwise, it might not happen for him.
The one FA Cup just after he came in.
Yeah.
And then since then, they've not got to anything, yeah.
Okay, I thought it was Dave, my bad.
But yeah, the like I say, they'll only hold on for so long. Like the favor of the favor of the fans will only last for so long,
of course,
until you start seeing like you're seeing it with United now. Like Bruno Fernandes is now like 28. Like you got the Rashford who's just turned 25. It's like these are guys in the prime now. Like it'll hit a point where you got Saka and Martinelli who are like going, got 2 years left on my contract and we ain't winning anything. I could go to Barcelona. Yeah, like, something along those lines. But
there was just before we move on, there was a great tweet I saw after the West Ham Arsenal game. The West Ham fan I followed, I think he does like a lot of the stadium announcements at the London Stadium. Just tweet out going, wonder how long Declan Rice leaves it before having to move on because he doesn't win a trophy at Arsenal. I was like, that's fantastic. Just sitting there going, oh God, should have stayed.
Yeah. Can't stick around there forever. He's got to go somewhere and win it.
Exactly.
Would have thrown at Kane for you. And he's single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, but he's in the team that's now been knocked out of the Pokal, lost the Super Cup. And we'll see how the league goes.
Might just be cursed. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's not the Spurs curse. Maybe it was the Harry Kane curse.
Possibly. Very possibly.
Well, we do have some more submissions from viewers and people on Twitter. So Cameron Ewart, a regular, has said, Dyche will keep Everton up even if they get a points deduction this season. I'm not too sure. Well, we sent this out today, so I was wondering whether it was like at half time when he sent that. Because I saw a lot of tweets similar. But yeah, like they seem to be turning the tide a little bit. I don't know how much you've just seen it or if you saw the game, but what's been your takeaway from the last few games with Everton?
Well, I didn't see the game at the weekend, and I wasn't able to watch them beat us at home because I was working that weekend. But I saw enough. Like, yeah, good thing I didn't go. I would have torn my hair out. But like, I think it goes back to what we said at the start of the season. I think bar the Luton result, where I sort of half jokingly said he should be sacked for it. But like, I think we've kind of been consistent with Dyche and Everton saying like, yeah, okay, the results aren't necessarily there at the moment, but they are playing well. And I've got to say, Calvert-Lewin's comeback looks fit and is scoring goals. Like, and that, when you're down the bottom, having a goal scorer, like, it sounds like a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It makes such a difference because he's such a handful for defenders and he is good in front of goal. Like, he's almost unfairly been given this sort of reputation of being a shit striker just because he's injury prone. Like over the last couple of years, it feels like when really people have forgotten how good he actually is when he's fit and firing. And they seem to have stumbled upon a system and an 11 that is working for him. And, I just think that with the points deduction, obviously depends how many points they get deducted if this thing does, sort of follow through and that is the end result. But you're looking at Burnley, I know they won on the weekend, you're looking at Sheffield United and you look at Luton, who I know got a draw at the weekend. Like,
Bournemouth
how many more points can Bournemouth
ripped to shreds?
How many more points are those teams realistically going to pick up over the course of the season? Whereas Everton, like Dyche's done it loads of times with worse Burnley squads, they will just go on a run of 4 or 5 games and pick up 12 to 15 points, or just shy of that, and it will be enough. So, and usually I find, and again, I've got experience of watching many West Ham teams down the years who've been in relegation scrap. All you need is one good month, and that can be the difference. You can have a crap season, but 1 month where you get 4 wins out of 5 or whatever, or 3 wins and a draw out of 5, that could be enough to just get you out of it. So again, I think it massively depends on how big the points deduction is. But I've got faith in Dyche keeping Everton up. I think if it was anyone else, you'd be a bit like, if it was Scott Parker, I'd be like, no, they're probably going down. But like Dyche has been there and done that before, man. I think I've said before, he's the perfect man to be in charge of Everton right now. As much as the football might be crap, like do you want crap football and staying up, or do you want to get relegated looking pretty like Bournemouth trying to do? Yeah. So
when Dyche actually took over, I said like this almost looks like the Everton squad as it is now, especially with the additions that he's been able to do this season. This looks like the kind of squad that he'd have loved to have built if Burnley had money. Because DCL is about as Sean Dyche striker as you can get. He's as big as Chris Wood, but he's quick and good.
Yeah,
he's a really good striker, but he's a complete handful. He's not going to like dribble past 10 people, but he gets it in the mixer. Like he gets his head where it's dangerous. Like he's a good finisher.
Quick with his feet as well.
Yeah.
His control's really good.
Yeah, he's no slouch. He's a really good striker. But I think like the midfield they've got, like, it's a really solid midfield of hard workers and a bit of creativity. There's a bit of pace on the wings. Like the defense is really solid. He's got a really good goalkeeper. It's starting to show like they're looking a lot more solid. But they're creating chances, and now they've got this big mutant Beto on the bench, and DCL has come back as well and starting to find his form. I think they will be fine. I don't know whether I'm as confident if there is a 12, 15 point deduction or whatever.
If it's 12 points,
it's going to be tough.
It's a lot.
But it's whether it actually goes through this season. It might be a thing they start in next season. I can see there being a big kickoff if Everton get given a 12-point deduction and City don't. Like they've got one charge. How many charges is Breezy on City?
115.
115.
I got to say it this week.
Come on. But yeah, like I've watched a few of the few Everton games, and the players look up for it. The players look like they're playing for them. They're well drilled. They're getting chances. They're actually finishing them now, because at the start they were actually playing well without finishing. DCL's fixing that. I reckon, without a points deduction, I think they have a solid 12th place finish. With the points deduction, maybe just above the bottom 3, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Like you say, there are some really poor sides at the bottom.
Well, speaking of really poor sides, Scott has come in talking about Luton, saying this will seem reactionary, but Luton may actually stay up by virtue of their home form. They seem difficult to beat at home. He's also asked about the VAR things at Newcastle. Obviously, already covered that, so we'll stick with Luton. Yeah, I guess thoughts. Obviously, it was a fantastic result for Luton. 1-1 draw at home to Liverpool. I will kind of echo what I said. I think I said this after we played him towards the start of the season. I spoke about Luton. I was watching that game feeling like this feels like an FA Cup tie and not a Premier League game.
Yeah.
And I wonder if because sometimes the sort of the setting of the game makes a difference. Like the fact it was like an evening game or like a late kickoff, it was like dark under the lights sort of thing. If anything, I find nighttime games under the floodlights build add to an atmosphere a little bit more. I wonder if that was just a bog standard like Saturday 3:00 kickoff, or whatever. It would have been a bit more routine for Liverpool because the Sky cameras are there, creates a bit of a buzz. But like, I'm not trying to take anything away from Luton. Again, I thought they defended brilliantly, and Liverpool had a real tough time breaking them down. But yeah, like, do you think it's enough? Do you think they still got enough to stay up, or is it just still only going to be too much for them?
Maybe, and I think that really depends on what Bournemouth do the rest of the season, because they just look lost. So I've said it before on I'm sure Gary O'Neill sleeps very soundly at night. Like,
yeah, I'm not having this. I'm not having their new manager. I'm not convinced in the slightest.
Not at all.
Like, at all.
But yeah, I think whether they stay up or go down, I think the how close they are in all the games they have is incredibly impressive, considering the squad that they've got, which has got, I'd say it's a League One squad with a smattering of Championship players. And I think whether they stay up or go down, I think Rob Edwards is going to get a big offer at the end of the year. From maybe a Palace, like someone who wants to kind of bring someone new in who needs some fresh ideas, or maybe like, I was looking at the Championship table, like Leicester running away with it, but you've got Leeds, you've got Southampton. If Luton go down, I could see a Leeds or a Southampton going, he knows what, I'll set a team up, and we've got better players than them.
Yeah.
Because he's showing that he's switched on, he's really tactically astute. Like, to get this team performing to the level that they are and being in games, keeping it close. It's not like they're getting pasted every week. Yeah, it's not the prettiest football, but they're really well drilled. I think he's going to have a good career ahead of him.
Yeah, and must be. God, imagine being a Watford fan. Jesus Christ! Oh God! Poor Miles. Shout out to Dom.
Well, we've got another submission here from Red496. Again, another one of the regulars. And he's put, which is quite fitting, seeing as we've just watched the Spurs v Chelsea game. He said, maybe, just maybe, Andrew's a better manager than people give him credit for. As long as Spurs avoid major injuries, lol, and can carry their current form, there's no reason to believe that they won't be in the title fight until things inevitably get Spursy. Now, like I say, we have just watched this game, and I don't think people have been discrediting Ange. If anything, I think everyone's been going, "Oh, he is really good." Like, it's kind of obviously, it's really tough to judge a manager when you're one of the old firm in Scotland. Because, like,
look at the hype Gerrard got.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's that same. It's so cut you off. It's like, yeah, it's exactly that. It's like, I don't think there was any. Obviously, there'll be a few people at the start of the season being like, no, they're going to be crap. I said Spurs wouldn't be very good. I didn't say Ange wouldn't be very good. I just said Spurs wouldn't be as good this season.
Well, the Spurs,
like, I actually, yeah, exactly. It's what you expect. But like, I understand there being a little bit of caution in terms of like predicting how good Andrew's going to be this year, because again, you've seen managers come over from Scotland and it's not worked as well as people may think, but he's done an absolutely fantastic job. To be fair to Red 4 as well, which is say he did tweet us after the game just being like, I feel like I may have jinxed him on the injury thing. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it was I mean, we'll talk about the game a little bit as well. It was the possibly the wildest game I've seen in the Premier League since the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Like, it's just the craziest stuff. Like, just, in the first 20 minutes, there could have been 3 red cards, and 2 of them should have been for Romero. Like, yeah, it was it was wild up until that point. Obviously, like, he ended up with a red card. Spurs looked completely unspurs with 10 men, and we're actually taking the game to Chelsea. Then they lose Van der Ven, who's been one of the best signings of the season. Like, he looks like he's done his hamstring, which is not good for an incredibly quick player. And Maddison comes off injured as well. So, like, they've lost both of their first choice centre backs and Maddison for indiscriminate amounts of time. Maybe it's just a precaution with Maddison, but you'd have thought with 10 men that they wanted to keep him on, right? If he was able to continue. Romero's going to be gone for 3 games. Like, he's, for all of the props and all the praise that he's had, like, so far this season, and rightly so. This was the first game where he looked like he's old, like he's completely lost his head at every opportunity itself. Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, fair play to Chelsea. And it was actually, I like the fact that Nicholas Jackson's got a few goals, like, because it felt like he was being a real, like, not like, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but like, he felt like one of those players who was getting an unfair rap and a load of pressure on him. as a young dude who's coming in with all these expectations, and for him to get a few goals, like maybe that'll take a little bit of the edge off it. But yeah, it was a shame. Like, and I'm not a Spurs fan either, but it was a shame to see it like kind of all fall apart for Spurs like that. But I think they're going to take a lot away from this game, and I've not seen the comments after the game from Ange, so that's going to be interesting what he says. But I feel like they're going to come out of this with a belief of like, look, we stayed in this game with 9 men against against the Chelsea team. Like we can do this. It just depends on how long they're going to be missing these really important players for him, I guess.
Yeah, that could be really significant. Maybe this is a potential hot take from me. I thought Chelsea. I tweeted after the game. It's mental. They've beaten a team with playing against a team with 9 men, and it still feels like they didn't really deserve to win the game.
Oh yeah,
I thought Chelsea were awful for the majority of that game. And I know like the 4-1 is like I think it flatters them massively. Like I get what you're saying about Jackson. Like you got to remember he's a young kid, new to the league, all this sort of thing. Again, some of the chances he missed in that game are just because like the third, like 2 of them are tap-ins, and the third one it looks like he sort of almost falls over as he's accidentally goes around the goalkeeper. Now he could have got a 4th. It's probably one of the easier ones. He just blasted over the bar from like 10 yards or 8 yards, and I'm just like, I felt that, and I understand why because of the makeup of that Chelsea team, but there was such an immaturity about them in terms of how to manage that game playing against 9 men, even to the point where they go 2-1 up, and it felt like they were hanging on. Like, obviously, Dyer has that goal that gets ruled out. Unbelievable finish, Merrick Dyer. Like, gets ruled out correctly for offside.
Bentancur should have scored. Like, as well.
Yeah. Like, and they kept, obviously, Spurs kept this high line, which I doubt no one really, like, we didn't expect it watching at home. I doubt Chelsea would expect it. But again, they kept looking for that same long ball and just kept falling into the trap and getting caught offside, like, bar a couple of opportunities, like, times they didn't. And when it did get through, they'd be through 1-1 and make the wrong decision. Even for Sterling, even for the doggy red card, in a way, he's an idiot for going in the way he did. But like in a way, he's unlucky because Sterling just happens to make the complete wrong pass and still cocks it up. And that's Sterling, who's like one of the more experienced players in the team. Like you'd think would be a little bit more savvy in those scenarios and just sort of do the simple layoff rather than trying to go for like a weird side-footed pass. Like it just.
They look like they were playing with unbelievable pressure because, like you say, there is a lot of really experience. There's a World Cup winner in midfield. You've got Raheem Sterling, who's got it's like a decade of Premier League football under his belt. You've got some really experienced players there, and they just seemed to be. There was no composure. Like
even from Poch, I didn't think.
Yeah. Like it was just like panic, and it was like everything's way too quick. Everyone's trying to do everything way too fast. It's like you've got 2 extra men. Like you've got half an hour. You've got an entire half of football. 2 extra men. Just sit with it. Just sit with it, and like just wait. The opportunities will come. Like they can't stay concentrated forever. Just have smart movement. And like you say, they tried that punt over the top all the time because they've got quick players on the pitch, but you try it 5 times and you're not pulling it off every time. It's like, well, you know what? Maybe we just slowly build it for a little bit. Give it 10 minutes. Let's see if something works there.
And that's where the second goal come from. It's good work down the right hand side by James. Play Sterling in, and that's where it comes from. But like I said, even when they go 2-1 up, it just felt like I was watching it, thinking like I don't believe they've got this sewn up. Yeah. And it's like I can't imagine what the Chelsea fans at home. Like if you're in the stadium, you're probably just happy that you got the breakthrough. But I imagine if you're a Chelsea fan watching that at home, you must be thinking like, probably need a third here.
If you're Chelsea fan watching, you're probably just happy to see him score a goal, to be honest.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. It's just that first 20 minutes or so, like that sort of that sort of 20-minute period of the first half. I think it's the most fun I've had watching football in ages, and it's not just because I've been watching West Ham for the past few weeks. But like, it just because what was it? It was a doggy should have been sent off for the 2-footed studs up challenge on one of the Chelsea players.
Sterling,
and then Romero kicks. Yeah, Sterling. Then Romero kicks someone. And this is after Spurs have gone 1-0 up. And then Chelsea have a goal disallowed. And then there's the penalty. And then the other goal that gets disallowed from Caicedo. It's just, it just didn't stop.
I think there was 6 disallowed goals and 2 red cards and 4 offsides.
Mental. Like, I think I tweeted, it's like playing a game of FM.
Yeah, it was insane. It was like a game of FIFA, just people flying it everywhere. No one really knows what they're doing. Like no one can finish.
That was it. It was pro clubs.
Yeah, it was pro clubs. It was like watching a game of pro clubs. Oh god, but
yeah, I think someone actually asked. There was a video. I can't remember what YouTube channel it was on, but they were asking. They were debating what the best like derby match in the Premier League is. You know, whether it's the Manchester derby or North London. It's Spurs Chelsea because every single season it is just carnage.
In terms of like
great
entertainment for an independent viewer, you know, like someone who's not bought anything in it. Yeah, I've got to agree. Like, because I think some of the bigger derbies, there's like the Manchester Liverpool derby, the United Leeds derby. I can't enjoy it as it's from outside it because I'm in it. Like, and a lot of the other derbies, like the Everton Liverpool one's never really that much of a derby, like because Liverpool usually slap them around. All the other ones don't really kind of seem to have that much ferocity, other than maybe like the Arsenal Spurs one.
That's
the games are never like usually that entertaining, aren't they? All like 0-0s.
Yeah, this is usually not that great. But like someone I follow on Twitter tweeted during the case, like, if you hate both Chelsea and Spurs, you're having a riot watching this. And I was like, I've been laughing the entire time watching this because it was just like, if I can my way, I want them both to lose, and it felt like they were both going to. It was absolutely just prime Barclays.
Well, I did say this after on the Discord after Spurs went down to 9 men and Chelsea couldn't break them down. Everyone was laughing at Spurs for having everyone injured and set up. Wait. It's going to be even funnier if Chelsea don't win this.
Yeah.
Hold your laughs.
I think I said in mine, I was like, Spurs are going to nick this, aren't they? I think Chelsea just missed their fifth shot. I think it was one where Cucurella went through, and rather than laying it off to Sterling for a tap-in, he sort of just ran into Vicario. By the way, Vicario, that is one of the best goalkeeping displays I've seen. Like,
it's outstanding.
I think you probably watched the games, but if you watch the game back, there may not be that many sort of like highlight reel saves or like worldy saves or anything. But it's just how quick he was off his line, how decisive he was, timed everything perfectly. Like, big reason as to why it stayed 1-1 for as long as it did. Like, I think he's someone that came in. I don't really know what his reputation was like from Italy when sort of Spurs got him. I think Euro Expert, who I follow on Twitter, I think was a little bit skeptical about him when Spurs bought him. But I've got to say, every game I've seen Spurs play this year, he's looked really, really solid, like really competent. A lot of talk, obviously, we spoke earlier about goalkeepers who play out with their feet and everything like that. Like, out of like Raya and Ramsdale and people like that, he looks incredibly composed. I don't think he's that old. I think he's quite young still for a goalkeeper. Yeah. Like, I think seems to have a wise head on him. Yeah, so I think Spurs have done really, really well there. And it's like, I mean, Hugo Lloris is still at the club, and you'd be forgiven thinking he isn't. That's Hugo Lloris. He's been their captain for God knows how long. So he isn't going to get back in that team anytime soon, unless unless Vicario breaks his leg or something. But like, yeah.
Well, with the amount of injuries that happened tonight, I wouldn't write it off.
No. I mean, it's interesting to know where this leaves. Probably it's interesting where it leaves both Spurs and Chelsea, I think, because I think you'd expect Van de Ven's going to be out for a good few months. Like, say, it looks like a really nasty hamstring injury. Like, it looked bad, and don't know how long Maddison's out for. Now they've got suspensions to deal with. I don't know what their fixture list is looking like, but you know, if they get a couple bad results, I think that would put play to the talk of them being in the title race, which is, I don't think anyone expects them to be anyway, if we're being honest.
I think it really depends on how they manage it and whether it is a real, like, if Maddison gets back in and Dyer can find a little bit of form. I mean, they have got a paper thin squad.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But I mean, see how they manage it. I'm sure that Angel will take it game to game and see what they can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just to go back to Vicario. He's one of the big reasons they've been so good this year as well, because there's been games where he has put in similar performances and like kept them in the games where, you know, they probably would have previously drawn or lost or by a big Lloris mistake. So he's one of those keepers that, you know, the section below the two outstanding ones. I'd definitely put him straight in there right now, like based off
absolutely
10 games of football. Like from what I've seen of him, he looks really, really solid. But yeah, going from two London teams. Should we go?
Do we have to? Do we have to? Can I just say, I promise I was away on holiday and I was ill. It looks awful that I've not been on the podcast. Around the same time, West Ham form has plummeted off a cliff, but like I generally have had reasons. I think it's probably better not to sort of do like individual goal. I'm going to do a little bit on the Brentford game because it's fresh in the minds, but I guess it's probably better to do like a summary of sort of West Ham's last few weeks. Obviously, it started with the 4-1 loss away to Villa, which maybe not 4-1, but it was always going to be a tough game. And I think there was stuff in that game that was definitely concerning. But it's away at Villa, it happens. Wasn't that worried about it. Away at Olympiacos, lose 2-1 in a really, really bad performance. But again, you can make excuses because we made 7 changes and we're still in a good position in the Europa League group. To then follow that up with a 1-0 defeat at home to Everton, who, as much as we praised him earlier, West Ham at home should be beating Everton, as far as I'm concerned, with the squad that we've got. Beat Arsenal in the League Cup, which was great, and then threw away a 2-1 lead away at Brentford at the weekend. It's probably the most annoyed I've been at a defeat that we've had this season. It's part of the reason we haven't really spoken about many of the other games on the weekends. I was in such a bad mood, I didn't bother watching much football after that because I was in such a bad mood. I don't know if you managed to catch any of it.
I caught the match of the day highlights. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me start with the positives. Mo Kudus and Jared Bowen are fantastic, and Mo Kudus is getting better and better and better with each game. And
Kudus' goal was exceptional.
Just both the one against Arsenal and the one against
the
touch and finish against Arsenal and the scissor kick into the top corner against Brentford was fantastic. But it just kind of feels like all the good work we've done at the start of the season is just being undone, game by game at the moment, and all the goodwill, especially that Moyes had sort of. All the goodwill that he brought back upon himself. Because, we spoke about it, right? There was a lot of people calling for him to go after the cup final win, and I think I said that. Well, no, at the end of the day, he earned the right to stay on for another season after winning us the cup. No matter what you think of, if you're a West Ham fan, no matter what you think of his playing style, he earned that right by winning us our first trophy in nearly 50 years. And it looked like we were getting somewhere and going back to where we were, sort of in the first couple of years he came back and stuff at the start of the season. But it's just the last few games, what's worrying me is I'm seeing a lot of the same patterns and a lot of the same mistakes in terms of in-game management and drop-off in performances that we saw last season. And last season, in terms of the league form, was horrendous. And it just feels like even though we've brought in more players of really good quality, we are just slowly slipping back into that. And I'm at the point now, and this may sound reactionary, and I'm trying my best not to make it sound reactionary because I feel like most people who listen to me talk about West Ham know I'm quite level-headed most of the time. I think with Moyes, I think I am just done. He's been here, I think this second spell, I think this is his 4th season. And the first 2 were great. Second half of that second season, we started to tail off a little bit. Last season, in terms of the league, was dreadful. This year, we started well, and it's going back to being dreadful again. And I think I'm just ready for something new. And I'll always be grateful for what he's done for the club. I think because it's not just the cup win. We'd probably be in the Championship if it wasn't for him, genuinely. That year under Pellegrini where we came back, we were dreadful. We had no right to stay up that year. And he's come in and he's sort of almost not rebuilt the club, but he's given us stability for the first time in years. But I just think now where the club is, with the players we've got, the fact we've got this technical director in Tim Steidten who's in charge of the player recruitment, he's bringing the players like Alvarez and Kudus in. It feels like the club is going one way, and Moyes is sort of still here in the sort of early 2000s, late 90s sort of thing, where the club's well, hang on, there was modern stuff we want to try and do, and it just feels like it doesn't match up, and it annoys me because it's as always this comes back to David Sullivan because he didn't give him a new contract in the summer. He's gone, okay, he's got 1 year left. Let's just see how it goes. And now, because we've obviously on a bad run of form, it's all leaking out via his usual friends in the press. They're well, he's in no danger of being sacked, but we're not going to give him a new contract at the end of the season. So it's well, what's the fucking point of this season then? We're just going to exist in the league for a year and then start again in the summer when it's not like we've got nothing to play for. We're in November. I'm pretty sure it was around this time that Villa sacked Gerrard last year and got Emery in.
Yeah,
you can make that change now, and you can still achieve something this season. I get they want to honour the contract, but I just don't see. So if Moyes knows he's not getting the contract at the end of the year, where's the motivation for him to do well? If the players know that Moyes isn't getting a contract, where's their motivation to play for him? It just leaves us in such a shit situation. And yeah, it's really, again, this might all change in a few weeks if we get a couple of wins. Our next few games are fairly winnable, but it just kind of feels like it's all coming to. It feels inevitable where this is heading, which is Moyes won't be West Ham manager next season, and it just kind of depends on when that's actually going to happen. But likely this is going to be next week, and the end of the season. So hopefully next week, but more likely end of the season. Yeah, it just sucks. Like I said, after because how good we were at the start of the season, it just feels like it was all for nothing now, and it's just going to be, like I say, just a meaningless season of nothing.
Yeah, like the poor. I guess it's like not even just the results, but like the performances and the result, like the giving up leads and giving up victories and like just the tumble down the table of like there was a point where you're like, oh, are we going to challenge for top 4 like a month ago? And it's like now you're below Man United, who are apparently the worst team in the world.
Yeah.
And from watching them, they are. But like you said, like the next few games, like you've got Forest, Burnley, and Palace in the league, that are winnable games. You know, definitely winnable. If you win those, you back up the table, and maybe I don't know, maybe things seem a little bit rosier. But I know what you mean with the what's the point? Like if they've decided now that he's not getting a new contract, then surely you go, okay, well. You know who's going to be replacing him then, or the pool of managers who are. If any of them are available, go for them. Like, because not only, like you say, not only could it turn the season around, could you challenge for like a European place, or have a run in Europe, or have a cup run? You just knocked Arsenal out. You can have a bit of a run in one of those with a new manager. But not only that, you give a manager 6 months to get to know the players that are there, and then go like assuming he gets like a 3 or 4 year contract, you can go. I know the players that out of this group now well enough to know the ones that are going to stick around and the ones that need replacing. So yeah, it could be that. But like you say, like if it just feels like if it feels like he's going to be gone, if you're the owner, just then let it be gone.
Do it, yeah. Just do it.
Just let it be gone. Like it's not like he needs to stick around to keep you in the league. It's not like. Him sticking around is going to win you anything, like win you another trophy at all, especially like with the performances as they've been. So why not roll that dice? I don't know, like you can blow up in your face, but
this is the thing. I feel like if you're going to do it mid-season, this is the season you can get away with doing it because the simple fact of the matter is there are 3, arguably 4 teams. Like we are not going to get relegated this season. I will happily bet everything I've got. Like maybe not everything I've got. Like, I'm not a gambling man, so I'm not going to do that. But like. I could say with pretty strong confidence that Luton, Sheffield United, Burnley, and Bournemouth are all considerably worse than West Ham are. And we will probably beat them when we play them this season. We've already beaten 2 of them. We've got to play Burnley in a couple of weeks, probably beat them. And our next game against Bournemouth will be at home because we'll play them away. And we'll probably back us to beat them. So it's not like last year where there was genuine risk of us going down. I understand not wanting to go with a more left field appointment or something like that because I get the theory. Moyes is probably better equipped to keep you up rather than bringing in another version of David Moyes essentially. But this year we're not. I was never confident we were going to win the Europa League, mainly because bloody Liverpool were in it. They're really good. How pissed off I was that we drew them away in the League Cup. By the way, I couldn't believe it. Like in game finished against Arsenal, I tweeted at like 10:15. I tweeted out we're getting Liverpool away in the next round. By the way. Draw happens at 11 o'clock. Bosh. Liverpool away at Anfield. Like, of course we have. So that's the League Cup done for this season. FA Cup third round roll around. We'll get Man United away or City away or something, and we won't get past them either. We're not going to do anything in the cups this year. Yeah, probably would to be. No, because around that time, United have just started turning it around. I've supported this club for long enough. I know what happens. I've seen this happen before.
I've read this book.
United have been shit for years. United have been shit for years. We still haven't won at Old Trafford for God knows how long. So, it doesn't matter. Yeah, So yeah, we're not gonna win the Europa League realistically because and I'm not trying to diminish the Europa Conference League win. I'm not. I've said before, like you can see how Villa haven't had it all rosy in the Conference League this year. They've found it a little bit tough, and that's with Emery in charge. Like, but with the greatest respect to us winning that cup, the step up this season, especially from the Europa League to the Conference League, is like night and day. Like our group this year is at Freiburg, Olympiacos, like 2 really good European sides. And then you've got the likes of Sporting and Liverpool and Ajax and maybe not Ajax, but Marseille and all teams like this. And then you got the teams coming down from the Champions League. Like, being realistic, we're probably not going to win it. But I don't know. I just want to. Do you know what it is? I look at teams like Villa, and I even looked at Spurs tonight. And I'm not saying I want like an attack-minded man. You know, this whole classic thing of like, oh, someone play attacking football. Don't necessarily want that. I just want a manager who's going to actually has a plan to go and win games and not, right, we're a goal up, lads. Let's just defend for 45 minutes. Because it doesn't work. How many times have I sat here and said, like, I think it was against Newcastle. I said, come out the second half, didn't look like scoring the next goal. They went 2-1 up. We had to rescue it. It's happened so many times this season. Brentford, we did so well to get 2-1 up in that game. Second half rolls round. Of course, we conceded in the first 5 minutes. And for the rest of the game, until we went 3-2 down, we did not look like scoring a goal. And that's mental when you think how much talent we've got in that team. Even with Paqueta missing, you have Kudus who's on form at the moment. Bowen's looking great. Obviously, Ward-Prowse and Souček in the midfield. Like, we've got a good squad of players. And it just feels like at the moment we're being hamstrung by the manager, unfortunately. And again, I hate saying it because I've got a lot of respect for the guy. I really do. But I just think we're at that point now where I think the squad is moving past him. And hopefully Tim Steiden's got a list already of potential managers that can come and replace him. I think I says on Twitter, I'm at the point now I'm generally thinking Will Steele might be the answer. And I can't, like, he may well be. But like I was adamant he wasn't last season. Now I'm starting to believe he is. That's how bad it's
So he gets fined for every match that he manages.
Yeah. He learned his job by playing Football Manager. So yeah, that's my 10 or so minutes. I'm just West Ham. Like I said, we'll be fine this year, but it's not gonna be enjoyable, and it's just gonna be whatever. And I just hope that we got a plan in place. And if part of that plan is fucking Danny Ings off in January, that'll be enough for me. Because that bloke is a waste of space. I'm done being sympathetic about Danny Ings in terms of like, well, he doesn't fit the system and he can't play. He's shit. And I don't know why we bought him last year. And we've got a good youth player in Divin Mibama who's not signing a new contract because he can't get first team football because that wanker keeps getting on ahead of him. Doing my head in. You can go.
Relax, yeah. No, I mean I've not really got anything to add to it. Like, obviously, like you're the West Ham fan from the outside looking in. Like from the outside looking in, it's you know, it looks like a frustrating year.
Yeah,
like you say, if the plan for this year is to kind of let David Moyes see out his contract for in some weird
sentimental reason.
Yeah, it's not like he's been there for 15 years and he's won you loads of stuff. Like, no, he's 4 or 5 years. Yeah, he's won a trophy. That's great, but you know, Man United sacked Jose after he'd won a trophy. So, when it stops working, Leicester won the league and sacked their manager the next year because it was going to shit and they saw the writing was on the wall. Like, there's nothing wrong with admitting that the plan that worked previously isn't working right now, and sometimes you just got to make that jump. And you know, I mean, I think Leicester's a really good example of that. Actually, like a team that's overachieved, like won something that no one expected them to. Like, I don't think anyone really expected West Ham to go and win the Europa Conference League last year. Like, had a really good year, overachieved. It goes wrong the next year. Like, yeah, like they're a good example of that because they changed it up and got something new in, and like obviously eventually it ended up in being in an FA Cup win for them, and like a sustained top half. Granted, they've been relegated since, but I think that's more Brendan Rodgers than like
and the money
melting a club,
and the money running dry.
Exactly, than anything else.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, I think because you got to remember as well. Like, I hear what you're saying, and like just to give Moyes some credit, like it's not just the trophy win. Again, got us 3 consecutive years of European football, which for West Ham is fantastic. But it's that thing of like I use Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool as an example when I talk about this sort of stuff of like, for getting you from one point to the next, great, but sometimes you got to realise that he's not going to get you to that next point. And naturally, as you do well, expectations naturally going to rise. I think you look at the West Ham team that finished 6th in that first full season that Moyes had, and you compare it to what we have now. Of course, expectations are going to change. I'd argue we're one decent striker and one decent left winger away from being as good as Aston Villa or Brighton or maybe a Newcastle. Like, again, I know Newcastle have all the money in the world.
The playing squad to be able to push on.
Yeah, so I think it's natural that I think as a fan base, and I think there's a lot of people like myself who I think gun to their head at the end of last season, you said, would you rather he stays or goes? They'd have gone, yeah, I'd probably rather he goes and we get someone else in. But there were people who were willing to give him that chance this season, and even that's and those people are starting to wane now. And I don't know, like you said, you're from the outside looking in. Is there anyone you think jumps out at you that could be a good appointment for West Ham once Moyes does eventually leave? Like, I saw someone talk, loads of people talk about Xabi Alonso because obviously the Leverkusen Steiden link, but he's destined for. I think someone put on Twitter is like, oh, those tweets where it's like, oh, West Ham hire Xabi Alonso, sign striker, do this. Who says no? I was quoting it going, I think Xabi Alonso probably says no. Well, he's a shoo-in for the Real Madrid job.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Like, he looks like he's off to Real Madrid in the summer, doesn't he?
Yeah, so that's not happening.
Yeah. I'm not sure, like, because it feels like a lot of the managers who are doing well, I don't see them wanting to move on or move on to West Ham in the current guise. I think West Ham's got like a bigger ceiling, like a high ceiling, just like due to the stadium, like due to the actual kind of cash flow, due to having won like a European trophy, might have a bit more of a draw. But like, I think trying to tempt one of the younger managers, so I'd say someone like a, you know, who's overachieving at a smaller club, like a De Zerbi or a Thomas Frank or something like that. I don't know whether West Ham would have the draw to pull one of those kind of managers who's like a bit prem proven. In terms of someone from another league, like, you never know. Like, it does. It's always a toss up. Like, you could have someone who's overachieving in Italy or Spain or Portugal or whatever come over and look completely lost in the Premier League, or it could kick off straight away. Also, at the same time, I think, you know, if you wanted to go for someone who's overachieving a bit, is it going to be too much of a jump? So, like someone like a Rob Edwards or something like that, who's showing he's a really good manager, he's a really good tactician, is that going to be too much of a jump? Is it going to be too much of a jump for a Gary O'Neill or, like, you know, something like that? And I just feel like everything else would be getting another, like, Moyes-like manager, someone who's got a lot of tenure, got a lot of experience, but just tends to be a bit more pragmatic, because a lot of the more exciting managers that have got Premier League experience or would suit Premier League clubs are already at Premier League clubs and playing exciting football.
Yeah, I would say I'd be more interestingly, and this might be weird because I'm kind of, in terms of where I'm hedging my bets here, but like I'd actually be more inclined to keep Moyes if we didn't have this technical director in place in Steiden, who's come with a fantastic reputation, like did a great job of building that team at Leverkusen, was a big part of Alonso coming in. And I think from what I understand, I'm pretty sure this is fact, it's been confirmed since. I think both Spurs and Chelsea were looking at him in the summer and he chose to come to us. And you look at the influence he's had on us on our sort of transfers this summer with likes of like Kudus, Alvarez, Mavropanos coming in, and they've come in and look great. I think if he wasn't at the club, I'd be sitting there thinking, yeah, we can't attract some of these managers. But I look at him and I'm thinking, look at Villa last year. How if he'd have said to me before they appointed Emery, I'd have gone, there's no chance Villa get Emery. Like he's got too good of a thing in Spain right now. Why would he come to Villa? I'm hoping that if Steiden has as much influence that it seems like he does at the club, maybe we can attract someone like I don't know, if I'm throwing a name off the top of my head, like an Almerim at Sporting or someone like that, or someone who is doing well in Spain or Italy or whatever, who might not be an obvious choice, but can come in, command that respect from the players straight away, and we just fly. But obviously, that's, you know, it's you for every Emery you get, you also get a Frank de Boer. So it's obviously going to be obviously going to be a risk. But I do think we, like I said earlier, I think we're in a position this season where I think we can afford to take that risk. And I think if and more important, if we get someone who's willing to work with Steiden, in the sense of like, right, comes in, I'm willing to work with this guy, I'll let him know what sort of players I want, and then he can go and get them. And it all just works a little bit more in sync, and everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet. And I find usually more often than not, that's where clubs end up being more successful. Again, you look at your Villas, your Brightons, your Newcastles, like that's all the setups they're using right now, and it seems to be working for them. And there's obviously clubs who don't have a sporting director, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But
well, we've got one.
Yeah.
Whether he's any good is another thing.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I'll be super interested to hear from people listening to this what they think. Am I being, you know, overly critical, overly dramatic, or whatnot, or if I'm making some fair points? I'm always interested to hear what other people think when I talk about this sort of stuff, because it feels like, especially listening to pundits, because Moyes is such like a household name in terms of like an old school manager and whatnot. Like he's quite protected by pundits, I feel like, where it's like, well, why do you want to get rid of him? He's a safe pair of hands. Like you'll never get relegated under him. And it's like, yeah, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be aiming higher than that. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear what people think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it feels from what you've said anyway. It feels like he's going to be going in the summer regardless.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what the next step is. Like you say, an Amorim, someone like that. I think if with an Amorim coming in, like my understanding is, I mean, I'm not a au fait with Portuguese football all that much, but he's another pretty kind of pragmatic, kind of solid, like not overly adventurous manager. So I wonder whether it'd just be a case of swapping an old one of those for a young Portuguese version.
Yeah. I don't mind pragmatism as long as it works.
Yeah.
As long, like, do you know what I mean? As long as it works. Again, I look at Emery as the example. He doesn't always play free flowing attacking football. He can be quite pragmatic, even with a high line, but gets results. So
yeah. No, fair enough. Well, you've alluded to the my club, unfortunately. So I guess
at least you're getting points on the board. So
yeah, again, like it was another performance. We've had like a string of these performances now, where if you just look at the results, you can go, we won 4 of the last 5 in the Prem. It's not all that bad. If you actually have been unfortunate enough to watch any of the games, it is dire. Like honestly, like I think I actually said like in the 85th minute, I said this is one of the worst games I've ever seen. Like just for the, and I don't mean this in like everyone's falling over. It's for the quality of player that's on the pitch, and I'm not here saying Man United have got a world class squad, but there has been tangible proof, like visible evidence, that all of these players are significantly better than the performances they're putting out on the pitch right now.
Yeah,
like Bruno Fernandes was one of the best players in Europe for an 18-month, 2-year period. Last year, he created the most chances in the Premier League. The thing that held him back was the fact we didn't have a striker. We had a big Dutch horse up front. Like,
I forgot about him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've not. And this year, he looks completely devoid of ideas. Like, Rashford seems to have regressed again to the point where he looks like, when he plays for England, he looks like a different player. Like, it looks like he's got pressure off himself. He doesn't like, and we've talked about this, like, he looks like he's playing with the weight of the club on his shoulders. And unfortunately, the last time he was playing with that, it actually broke his back. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Like, he carried that team to the point to where he broke his back. Like, he doesn't look like he's got any confidence. The entire kind of balance of the team, and I understand there's a lot of new players and there's been a load of injuries, and like it's not as easy as clicking your fingers and like just everything snaps together. Like, you've got players who was signed injured that are coming in or don't know the team or don't know the system but it looks completely disjointed to even the point where players who were good last year and are playing next to the players who they played well with last year aren't good this year. They're not performing. Like, I don't know how true the injury to Rashford is, whether it's he's been taken out of the firing line because of he went out for his birthday. I think it's bollocks. It's his birthday. He can do what he wants.
Yeah,
as long as he's not going out getting absolutely rat-arsed. Like, I don't really care if he's going out for a meal on his birthday. Like, the dude's a human at the end of the day, right? I don't give a shit. Like, do what you want.
I've always thought with that, it's like I'd much rather they go out drinking after a defeat than before. Do you know what I mean? I think, yeah, it's one of them where it's like I've said this before, where it's like, and you've seen it with Rashford and his sort of charity work that he's done and all this sort of thing, and any sort of activity outside of football that players will have, no one cares about until the team starts losing, and then they'll use it as a stick to beat him with. Like, seen it with Lingard. When United will win, I'm sure people loved all the Instagram dancing Lingard did. As soon as they started losing, boys, get off Instagram, get back on the training pitch. What are you doing? And same with the Rashford and Jarry stuff. It's like, it's mean, like, if he wants to go out for a drink on his birthday, they've lost. He probably needs a drink. So like, who cares?
It's just ridiculous. I understand the kind of the argument of, well, it doesn't look great, does it? Well, no, it doesn't. But neither does losing 3-0 to your city rivals. So like, what can you do? Like, you don't control when your birthday is, right? So,
no,
if he goes out for a meal on his birthday, then he can do what he wants. But what the kind of getting sidetracked with that, like, yeah, he's not performing as good as, like, I really like the look of Højlund, but he's starting to look like he's getting frustrated with like the lack of opportunities he's getting. Like, you see like how few chances are being created by this team, and it's like, it looks stacky, it looks ponderous. Like I say, Bruno Fernandes doesn't look like he's in the same headspace as he was. I just don't know what's going on, and I don't know what a lot of these players bring to the table. Mason Mount, I've seen in the past him be a very good player. He looks distinctly bang average, if not poor, in a United shirt. I mean, again, that might just be because he's new, he's getting used to a new system and new players, whatever. Anthony now has been at the club for 18 months, and he's just regressing. Like, I genuinely don't know what he brings to the football team. Like, some wingers will cause fullbacks, like they'll challenge a fullback, they'll try and get behind, or they'll run at them. He doesn't do that. He's not quick enough to run in behind and threaten there.
Nope.
He's not a finisher. Like, he'll pop one in the top corner like 1 out of 100 times, but he doesn't even cut inside and shoot anymore. Like, so, because everyone knows he's doing it and he's to defend. So he's okay at, like, his only benefit is he will track a runner. It's like, you could play anyone there. Like, anyone who's willing to run could do the same job he's doing. He's not creative. He's not quick. He's, as much as he likes doing spins, he's not actually tricky enough to beat someone. Like, he's not got any tangible, useful, like, flair. So, and he's just there, and he's a petulant little dickhead. Like, and I'm at the point where I'm watching him going, can we just don't play him? Like, I get that, like, maybe Ten Hag's like, I've kind of got to play him through this and show him, because he must have seen things at Ajax where he's gone.
Well, so he's really good. He's Ten Hag's guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
he's really good. I know what he can give me. I'm going to bring him to United to the point where we're going to overpay for him. But, like, he's just showing no progression and no payoff. Like, we had the young Uruguayan kid, Pellistri, come on for him the other day, and in 15 minutes he'd done more than him. Because you know what he does is he runs past people. Like, his final ball might not be that great, and he might not have the best decision making, but he'll run at a defender, he'll commit a defender. It's the same with Garnacho. Like, the final ball isn't always great, like, but he attacks people. Like, he'll create chances sometimes out of just the chaos of him running at someone. Like, it'll bobble off a defender and fall to someone. And we looked more dangerous with those two on the pitch, other than this 80 million quid Brazilian right winger. And let's not, like, he's a Brazilian international. He's not a shit player. He just isn't a United shirt, to the point where I'm just thinking, well, what's the point in being here? Like, if he can't do it in the shirt, then move him on. Like, you've got to cut your losses at some point. Rashford is a different thing, because we've seen him be exceptional in a United shirt. He looks like he's playing with pressure. He's not confident. He's just cutting in and shooting all the time. Whereas, like, his best stuff was when he's at his best when he's keeping defenders guessing. Will he hit the byline and whip it across? Will he whip it in, cut inside and whip it in? Will he have a shot? Will he attack a thing? He's so one-dimensional at the minute that maybe he has got an injury, and maybe a few weeks out would be the best thing for him, to be honest. Just to kind of get his head together. But as a performance, just the performances are poor. Like, the last few results, we lost against Galatasaray where we threw away a lead. Shockingly, we scraped a win against Brentford in a game that we shouldn't have won. We scraped a win 2-1 against Sheffield United. We beat Copenhagen 1-0 at home against. This is a team that, like, I'm not, like, belittling Copenhagen.
No, but United should be beating.
We should be beating Copenhagen at Old Trafford in the Champions League.
Yeah,
they were the better team on the night, but they just lacked a few
Nana Weldies, didn't it? Like,
they just lacked a little bit of quality up front. We got taken apart by Man City. Like, to be like, the first 20 minutes against Man City, I was like, oh, we've actually turned up. Finally, like, actually a bit of fight. Then it was the same thing. Penalty gets. I mean, it was a soft penalty, but, like, a penalty was given to him, and it looked like heads went. Up until half time, I thought we're still in this. Second goal goes in, and it's just Man City just kind of go, we're in second gear now, and you're not having the ball. We'll score. Yeah. We'll score if we fancy it. Like, as City do to a lot of teams, but it was just another one of those where, like, it was just a poor performance, another poor performance, and really questionable tactical decisions, substitution. Like, I'm getting to the point where, like, I'm not a Ten Hag. I'll always back the United manager, whoever's in. Like, I'll always back him. He was the right guy 6 months ago. He's shown that he can manage this club. He's shown that he's technically aware. I don't know what's going on at the minute. I just think the club sent him insane. Like, like as it has done with many players and many managers in the past.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whether the pressure's telling or like all these new rumors of more dressing room unrest are kicking off, and it's just like, I wonder. Like I've said it before, I bet he's looking at the club going, "Why the fuck have I come here?" Like, it's you're at a hide into nothing. Gary Neville says it best. It's like it's a graveyard for footballers and managers at the minute, and it's a top down, like it's a top down systemic issue. Like it's all of the eyes of the world, all the eyes of the UK sporting press are on United. There's so much expectation, so much demand. They're the easiest team to criticize when things are going wrong because they've been so successful in the past. And as soon as managers and players start to not perform to that level, they're just immediately massively scrutinized in the press. They're called out, they're called flops or failures or whatever. And it's just the pressure cooker of being at Man United. Yeah, when you're on top, it's great because you're winning everything. But we ain't been on top for ages. And it's the pressure on everyone at that club, from the backroom staff who are, the recruitment side of it has been terrible, to the manager who looks like he's losing his goddamn mind, to the players who look like they're playing under the most pressure, who look like they can't do anything. Like it's just a catastrophic failure from top to bottom. And like the players, the quality of the players at that club should be playing better. The manager should be able to affect things more. But once the rot sets in, and I just don't know where it ends right now. And I'm not here saying get rid of the manager, but I don't know how he fixes this. I really don't.
It's obviously United again. It's United. It's a big talking point, and it's something that obviously we spoke about a lot on here. And I think I've said this on here before. I don't see the point in sacking him, because it's like people, no matter what your opinion is, not you, like people listening, no matter what your opinion is on Solskjaer as a manager, what your opinion on Van Gaal or Moyes or Mourinho is as a manager, or even Ten Hag, the patterns are or near enough exactly the same. Start well, little dip, and it just snowballs.
Yeah.
And even like listening to you talk about Fernandes there, I only really just thought of this, but like, a lot of question marks over him as United captain and whether he's, the right sort of player or the right sort of character to be Man United captain. Like I said, I only just thought of this now. You look at what happened to Harry Maguire when he got the armband. He just it's almost sort of caved in as a player, and it seems like similar thing might be happening to Fernandes. Like it might be too early to tell. Granted, like
I think in the last few weeks and the performances, like he's been one of the few players who's actually looked like, he waves his arms around, he's petulant, but he's the one who's getting the goals. Like he's the only one who's actually doing something.
Yeah,
he's one of the few players at the club right now where everyone's walking around trying to hide. He's the one guy that's like, give me the ball. I'm gonna try and win this. Like, if anything, looks like the only person who should be having that shirt on at the minute. And you mentioned another good name, and I've got to give him props. Harry Maguire, like, he's made a few mistakes, but the last 3 or 4 games, he's been one of the better performers. It's like he's stepped up under like intense criticism. Granted, he's only got his shot because of injuries, but right now he's he's one of the form players at United, and he's not been that good. Like, he's been fine, but I think the mental fortitude to come back from where he was and like
I agree.
To stand up and go, no, I'll back myself. Like, even if it is a case of like it is his swan song and he does move in the summer or in January or whatever. Like, I think he's not done his reputation any harm. He's not hidden away from it. He's stepped up when it's needed, and he's putting the best performances he can do in the situation that he's in. So yeah, I've got to give him props, even if I don't think he's that good a player. Like, I've got to give him props on a temperament level, on a mentality level. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I watched the Fulham game the weekend, and I thought he was really good. I thought he was really, really good. I thought he defended well
in certain situations and in certain games. He's still a really good defender. If you're in a game where you just need to sit back and defend your box, he's great. He really is, because he's aerially dominant. Like, he's a really tough guy to get around and fight. I thought the fight between him and, I forget the Fulham striker's name.
Was it the guy who came off injured, wasn't it?
But I thought they had a proper classic striker centre back battle for the entire game. Like, and I could imagine a similar thing with Mitrovic if he was like still there.
Yeah.
But in those kind of games where you need someone to just kind of almost like, you're going to get bullied by this striker, but you can handle it. Whereas I think Martinez would get sent off and Varane would just kind of like wilt a little bit. Like, like he'd handle it a different way, like with a knife.
Yeah.
But I've got to give him his props for it. And yeah, like I say, he's stepped up when a lot of people had written him off, me included. So fair play.
Yeah. Just a quick question for me, I guess, because we didn't talk about it last time, and I know it's still not been confirmed yet. But obviously, there's still all the noise around Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos and the 25%, and what their plans are and stuff. Do you see it making a difference? I guess is the question, or like, is it just more noise added to a wall of noise, essentially?
Kind of. It really depends on if it goes through, because this was supposed to go through 2 weeks ago. Like, if it goes through, does he actually have sporting control? Like, it sounds like it's going to be a 3-person panel of him, Dave Brailsford, and one of the Glazers. Which, like, to be fair, if that's the decision making process, you'd think the 2 Ineos guys would agree on stuff, and then it's going to be a majority decision, right? Like, so if that's the thing, but if it's just a case of like, I can completely understand it if they're still, what are they going to have, like 50-something% of the ownership of United, because they don't own all United. Like if they still own a massive share of it, they're going to want to have a say in it. Like, at least just like as a way to put forward their argument.
Yeah.
I'm still like, don't get me wrong, like, Glazers, get rid of them. Like, they've been nothing but terrible for the club for the best part of 20 years. Like, it's been, they are the owners that have let this festering kind of that'll do mentality at United happen. Like, where it's just been getting yes men or bankers in to do footballing jobs, not hiring the right people for the job, letting the training ground and the stadium fall behind, and all this kind of like just this history, all this history of success and what could have been, have just been left to kind of rot. Like, so it'll always be fine because it's Man United, they'll still make loads of money. It's like, yeah, but that'll stop eventually when United haven't won anything for 15 years. And there's other huge clubs that's happened to. You can look across Europe, like, and teams that looked like they were going to be on top of the world forever, and it doesn't happen. You don't win something for a decade, or you don't win something for 15 years, and people will start caring about the teams that are successful. Yeah. So, like, hopefully that coming in, and there's rumors of, like, as long as the agreement is set out the way it is, and he comes in, that he's gonna invest private funds into the club. For kind of more operational stuff and like the training, like that'd just be a start of it, like, right? Like, well, at least it's something. We've had 18 years of owners who haven't invested a single penny, who've taken out hundreds of millions of pounds just for their own personal use, let alone refinancing debt, saddling the club with debt. Well, we've paid like £1.7 billion just in debt repayments, and we owe more than we initially did when they took it over. So they've paid off £1.7 billion worth of debt for a 600 million purchase, and we still owe that more now. I think we owe 750 million. It's like that's just money that's gone out of the club, let alone dividends and things like that. Yeah, I know United have spent more money than anyone on players, but if you've got another $1.5 billion, that keeps the stadium being like the top. I hate using like the best in class thing. It's the thing that Gary Neville always harps on about. But it means that we've not got a falling apart stadium that's, an embarrassment. It's not even part of the Euros bid. Don't have European finals there anymore. Like, everything in or around Manchester happens at either Anfield, it's just down the road, or the City of Manchester Stadium, because it's a nice place to go. It's a nice stadium. Yeah, it's almost when they do the expansion, it's going to be almost the same size as Old Trafford. So it's like, well, so they're not keeping up with that. The training facilities are all crap. I mean, football training facilities, if you compare it to any other major sport in the world, are pretty crap anyway. But Man United are 20 years behind. Like, they've not invested in that. Like, the way that money's been spent is the issue. The people that are making the money decisions at Man United are the issue, not the amount of money spent. And that's the thing that, like, I feel like a lot of fans try and, like, well, don't try. A lot of fans just don't grasp. And that's the frustration with United fans is like, we know we spend loads of money. We're pissed off with how it's spent. Like, it's like, I'd rather spend less money with a modicum of sense rather than like just trying to throw cash at whatever the hot player is this summer and hoping that'll fix everything, or hoping that the manager can come in with a short list of players that we'll overpay for. We can't move out the players that we want to get rid of. So you've got this horrible mishmash of players who don't want to be there, or the manager doesn't want, or who are a negative impact on the dressing room, and the players that we can kind of get over the line, but we're going to pay over the odds for anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just been that for like every manager. Just rinse and repeat that for the last 4 managers. It's and it's just coming to a head. Like, maybe we'll turn it around. Maybe we'll find a little bit of form. Maybe we'll finish in the top 4. Maybe we'll have a bit of a cup run somewhere. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to change until the actual fundamental issues at the club change, and that starts and stops with who owns the club. And like people can meme and say, "Oh, I'll be getting the Norwich scarves out next time they lose," and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, fair enough. Yeah, people think that Man United fans only complain when we lose, but there's been protests since day dot of the Glazers.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and that was when we were winning European doubles.
I was gonna say FC United and Manchester exists because of because of this.
Yeah.
Like, and they've been around since Fergie was in charge.
But that doesn't,
it's
don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Eh?
No, and it's like, far be it from me to defend Manchester United. I hate them, but like it's you can't, like say, you can't ignore facts. Let's talk about fact, as Ref Benitez would say. Like, we can't, you can't ignore it. And it's not. I think when, like I said, I think when people complain, when people see the complaints about the Glazers, because people complain about the owner of a football club, the automatic assumption is, oh, they're not backing the manager. And so, well, how can you not back the manager who spent loads of money? It's like, but prime example I could say is, well, look at Chelsea. Chelsea. Do you think Chelsea fans are happy with their owners? And can you say the Chelsea owners have backed their manager? I say they have, because they've spent £500 million on that squad. But just because you spend money doesn't necessarily. Yeah,
billion quid over the last 3 transfer windows.
Oh yeah, sorry, it was $1 billion, wasn't it? Yeah, my bad. But yeah, like it does, just because they spend money doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing, And it's like I found the actual, because there's that whole Neville after the Manchester derby, wasn't it? The whole Neville versus Carragher argument, and I was, Sky Sports go, oh, who have you got? Are you team? I'm like, they're kind of both right in a way. It's like they're both making really good points, and that kind of just goes to show you how many issues there are at United right now. It's like it's not just one. It's not just a case of Ten Hag's crap, he's got a good squad, he should be doing better. And it's not just Glazers. It's like, it's all encompassing. Yeah. But ultimately, Glazers are at the top of that, and they have to take the responsibility.
You can't argue that the players are underperforming, and you can't argue that the manager is setting them up poorly. But like you say, it all stems from like the people that make the decision, the people that have made the decisions to sign these players over the last 10 years, the people who have made these managerial changes, the people who have hired the technical director and the sporting director who've got no history in doing this in the job. It's people hiring these people in really important positions at football clubs who don't know how to do it. I'm sure Darren Fletcher is really great to have around the place. He's not got a history of managing transfers. No. It's the same with I've forgotten his name now. The guy who came over, like the sporting director came over with David Moyes. He was part of the scouting group that came with David Moyes, and he's been at the club since then. And he's the guy who was like promoted to the sporting director role. It's like, well, why? If you want a football director, if you want a sporting director, why don't you go out and get someone who knows what they're doing, rather than a guy who was brought in as a bit in the scouting team and he's been around at the club, and you go, well, we may as well let him do it. So,
yeah, it's the thing. I've to bring it back to West Ham just briefly, like Tim Steiden's it's the first time we've had a proper like guy running the football side of things. Because before it was David Sullivan, and he's clueless when it comes to buying footballers and identifying good footballers and stuff. And the closest we had to it, I think Pellegrini had his mate who was a director of football, and he signed Roberto. So like that's not like a good barometer of how good he was. But like it even with all the problems I spoke about earlier with West Ham, you can still see you can just see a little bit of the benefits of what having a competent technical director can have. Like I say, just from the players that we signed and the fees we've been able to get them for. Like we've not. I'd say we've been pretty good at spending quite well this summer in terms of like 35 million for Kudus. 30 odd million for Alvarez, 30 million for Ward Prowse, like all really reasonable transfer fees. When everyone knew we had all this money to spend from Rice going, it just goes to show you have the right people behind the scenes taking care of that sort of stuff. It can make the world of difference and save money.
Yeah.
So
if you've got a guy, if you're an agent or a football club and you've got a guy over the table saying, "I want to buy this player," and you go, "All right, he's 50 million quid," and he goes, "Well, he's not worth that." And what are you basing that on? I don't know. Whereas if you've got an experienced technical director or football director who goes, "Well, I know because I've been doing this for 20 years and I know I know the market value of players.
Here's all the data.
Yeah, here's the data. Here's the stuff." It's like, so are we going to do this at a reasonable price, or do you want 50 million? It's like, I want 50 million. All right, I'll see you later. Like, whereas it's just another issue with. I mean, United have historically, even before the Glazers, were overpaying for players just because they're a massive fucking football club. But there's one thing to be like paying huge amounts for world-class talent like, you know, Rio Ferdinand and Wayne Rooney and stuff like that, and it's another thing to be paying 80 million quid for Anthony. Or I don't want to use the Sancho explanation, because let's not forget how highly regarded Sancho was when United signed him. Like, he was legitimately, it was the same level of hype as Jude Bellingham this summer. And I'm not overstating that, because he'd had 2 seasons where he was putting legitimately Leo Messi numbers in terms of goals and assists up.
Yeah.
Like, and he was out of this world. And it was always like, is he going to go to Barcelona? Is he going to go to Real Madrid? Is he going to go to Man United? And it was, Man United got him. It's like, and there's like, where's that player that was playing in Germany? Where's he gone?
Like, you think that Jadon Sancho is not going to be at the last international tournament, and he won't be at the next international tournament, like at the age he's at. If you'd have said that before he joined United, you just wouldn't have believed him. Like,
and the thing
that's crazy.
Is he's still young. Like, he's still only 23, like 23, 24. Like, he's still in the start of his career. But man, he's like, even when he was getting regular football, he wasn't performing. He was given time to sort this stuff out. And I don't want this to evolve into a Jadon Sancho argument, right?
Yeah.
But I think at this point, and I think it's obvious now that United feel the same way. Like, it just isn't working. It hasn't worked.
No.
It was a good transfer at the point of the transfer, but it's not worked out. You know what? It's got real shades of Di Maria. Like, Man United sign the man of the match from the Champions League final, who's been at Real Madrid killing it, like absolutely wonderful, like incredible footballer. He comes to United, you get 3 or 4 games, and you go, oh, he's got something about him. And then it's like, who is this? Who is this?
Yeah.
Where's the player who's shown it since that he's a wonderful footballer?
Yeah.
Like, again, I'll just go back to what Neville says. Like, it's Man United at the minute, and it has been for the last 10 years, are just a graveyard for players and managers.
Yeah.
And
someone
else doesn't change until big things do.
Yeah, someone asked me on my stream the other day, it's like, who can you name sort of in terms of recent history that United have signed has been like a shrewd signing? And it's like, I can only really think of Fernandes. There's not been many that have come through the door that you've gone, that's worked out. That's been a really, like Martinez made it. I think Martinez has been, out of all the Ten Hag signings, he's probably been the best one when he's fit. But like in recent years, there's not really many you sort of point at and go, yeah, they've been great.
Yeah.
Like,
and a lot of these players who we've signed and paid big money for aren't at the club anymore. Like, we've paid $1.5 billion for all these players, but most of them aren't here anymore. Like Di Maria, like Lukaku's been and gone. And like, you've had all these players who've come through the door and gone back out, or we're looking to move on. And it's just insane. Like the turnover of players is ridiculous, and like the loss that's made on players is ridiculous, and it comes through the way that managers are appointed. There's no joined up thinking at the club. The whole point of like having a technical director or like an overall view, like an overall vision of how the club will be, is so you have like similar managers, similar players, similar mentalities. Like, even if like your technical director is changing, like you're having a person who works in a similar way. Whereas United, it's just chop and change every time. It's like, okay, Fergie's gone, we'll bring in Moyes. We'll bring in Moyes' players. Oh, that's not worked. We'll bring in Van Gaal. Let's try and get rid of some of these, but we'll just plop a load of other players on top that Van Gaal wants. All right, that's not working. Let's get rid of him. Let's get Jose. We'll get rid of who we can, but we'll get all the players that Jose wants now. So we end up with this bloated squad of all different, all different kinds
blend
of
of
players.
styles,
Some
and
some of whom who are still at the club.
yeah.
This is
I
the
think it was,
insane thing. It's like there's players that were signed by 3 managers ago now. Like, and sometimes that works when it's joined up thinking and it's similar styles of play, but it's literally like chalk and cheese every time. The closest thing that I can think is like Spurs. Spurs, like, it's very Spurs. Like, you bring in a pragmatic manager, you sign the pragmatic players. Right, we don't want to play like this, so we're going to hire an attacking manager. Okay, well, we're not going to back him with the players. We'll get a couple in though. All right, that's not worked. We'll get Jose in. Okay, that's not worked. We want a complete change. All right, we'll get, what was his name? Nuno, who is just Jose Nuno. Light. He's like mini Jose. So we'll get him in. Not only that, but you'll do Mourinho, Nuno, and Conte, all famous for really solid defenses. What we're going to spend on defenders? Jack all. You can have a load of discount wingers, right? Okay, why isn't this working? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, why isn't this working? And it's just it just feels like that kind of incompetence. But in a different way, but like it's just the frustration. Like I think the one thing that like Spurs have got going for them is they have got a lovely new stadium. They've got a lovely training ground. They've actually done a bit of joined up thinking with their manager now. They've actually, some of their signings are showing to be really good value. They've turned it around, and I know a lot of Spurs fans hate their owners. You know, whereas United have done that on a bigger budget and cocked it up more. So. Anyway, you thought you had a run.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's like I say, especially to parallel it with how it's going at West Ham. It feels like West Ham is like the problem. Definitely is the manager. It's like everything else is kind of working itself out. Just need to get the next manager has to be the right appointment. Whereas United, it's like, just need to gut the place.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I think with West Ham, it looks like the foundations are there. Things are starting to and there's a solid ground to build from. Yeah. It's just starting the build. It's starting the rebuild of everything. Whereas United, it's like quicksand, and we're just pouring concrete in places to hope things that don't fall apart. Like, except the roof.
I think it would. I agree with everything you said, and I will say that I think it's best if Neville and Keane in particular can just stop every season talking about United getting back challenging for league titles. Just let it go. Like, for now, let it go, and just. I think I said this on stream the other night. Like, I think United need to be a bit ruthless. If there's players who don't want to be there, that they don't want to keep, either pay them off or whatever. Just get whatever you can in terms of transfer fee, get them out the door. And if the academy's producing good players, bring them through and just start it again. Because it's like you say, it's the way I look at it, it's like United are still convinced that we can challenge for the league still, but they just have the players they've got there just aren't good enough to do it. And maybe that's the pressure of that is affecting them because they know they're not good enough to do it. But yeah, it feels like United needs, like I said, just someone needs to come in and hit the reset button. But how long that's going to take?
The thing is, like,
no idea.
The current owners won't do that, and I think that's why I say like it's doomed to repeat until there is like significant changes from the top. And like I say, hopefully this Ratcliffe thing comes off and it works out the way that in the best way that it can do. Like, I know there's a load of very kind of pessimistic fans about the whole Ratcliffe thing, and they wanted to see United, have their soul sold. I'll never understand that, but I'm not going to tell people they're wrong on what they want their club to do. I just know that I wouldn't have been particularly kind of enamored with it. And it's a really shocking kind of. I had a discussion with a mate the other day. I went at the pub on Saturday, and we were talking about it. And was it Saturday or Friday? Whenever it was. And it was like, it's alarming how many players that we've even signed in the last 12 months that I'd cut our losses on already. Like just from watching them, like sometimes you like again, and players who've shown to be good in the past. Yeah. Some players you just look at them and go, man, you ain't cut out for this. Like whether it's the pressure of the club, whether it's the situation of everything that's going on, but like you already look like you don't want to be there. Yeah. And there's not, honestly, out of that first team squad, there's not a lot of players who'd be sticking around. Like, I like the look of Højlund. I think he's good. Rashford's shown he's good in the past. Bruno, Casemiro, if we can find last season, and Martin. Yeah. That's honestly that. Unless Shaw comes back and looks like he's found his form again, like shout out to Onana, who actually looks like a really good goalkeeper again. He looks like he's banished those like kind of shakes.
I think that penalty save did a lot for him. I think in the Champions League, I think that did a lot for him.
He had the game after that as well. He had some really big performances, like some really big saves, and even in the loss against City, I think he was the best Man United player.
Oh, he was great. Yeah, he was great.
It could have been 6 or 7 if it wasn't for him. I just get a bit worried when the ball goes near him because he does that Uncle Zebedee thing where he just just turns into a spring. Whenever the ball goes near him, it just takes off. Where's he? Like saves everything. Like it's just springing everywhere.
Sorry, lads, I got it.
Yeah, it's like a pogo stick or something.
Yeah,
but no, it's pretty good to see that. But yeah, it's all. We'll see how the season goes. The same as you. Like we're not going to get relegated. We might scrape a European place. Like if we can get, because the thing is with the players that we've got, we have the ability to go on a 10-15 game run of not losing, winning most of them. But it's still going to be. It's just always that papering over the cracks thing with United in the last few years. Yeah. It's just, all right, things look fine for now. It's like, yeah, but it's not actually addressing the root cause, is it? So
no.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens with old 10 fraud. But nah, I think anyway. he's like, again, he's like the players. All right? He's proven, he's shown that he's a very good manager in the past.
That's the thing.
He's just in a situation where you're not able to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting though. When he came in and said that eras have to end, I just didn't think he meant Ajax. So.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
could be worse. Could be Ajax.
Yeah, it could be worse. Could be Ajax. It's been quite a therapeutic episode. I think for the pair of us, to be honest.
This was needed. This was needed. I was trying. Poor Mrs. B. She was like, "Oh, so was it not good today?" Then after the Brentford game, I had a little mini rant to her when we were in Tesco, and I was like, "Bless her, like she doesn't care about this." But I've got to explain it to someone. Yeah, like Monday can't come quick enough.
Yeah, I just need to say something.
Yeah,
yeah. Have you got any awful pundits takes for this week? Anything you've picked up on or?
Not really. I'll be. I will have to. Again, I feel like I do this every week. I have to give a special mention to Gary Neville, who was just peak Gary Neville tonight. Because I think I tweeted it when he did that thing where everything was going on. He kept going, and it's like he was commentating like he was on Gogglebox, like just like, you know what I mean? Like he's just sat there watching the game at home, talking to his nan or something. It's like. Again, I think I said this before. When he's not talking about United or it's not a United game, I think he's great entertainment because like some of the stuff he comes, some of the way he acts when he's on commentary is just really funny. So yeah, no, never was on top form tonight. Just so many.
There was a lot of that. A lot of watching fireworks noises.
Yeah.
I've got to give a special shout out to Martin Keown, who might be the most blinkered and the kind of. Just anything like that is even when Arsenal are completely in the wrong. It's going back to the Arsenal thing. Like,
yeah,
it was the biggest travesty that Arsenal would lost that game. It's like again, maybe look at the fact that Arsenal were shite and had one shot on target rather than trying to turn it on like Newcastle players should have been sent off and the referees have bottled this and this is wrong and blah blah blah. It's like, and he's always got like an incredible blind spot for the entirety of his actual footballing career. It's like, oh, well, I should have been sent off. That was a horrible tackle. So, Martin, I've seen you try and stab someone with your studs.
Yeah,
you were the most violent defender I've ever seen. Like,
yeah, I can't bloody stand Martin Keown. Yeah. He's insufferable.
I listen to like the afternoon talk sport show now and again, and like literally I'll hear his voice and just turn it. Like I can't do it.
Yeah, it's. So for someone who actually does speak quite well, just comes out with so much waffle, and he's perfect for TalkSport. I'll give him that much. Absolutely perfect for TalkSport, but
he generates clicks.
Yeah, but no, not for me.
Right, well, we've gone over the 90 minutes. Quite like the game tonight. Like it's we'll put it down as injury time. As always, thank you for tuning in, guys. Sorry again, apologies for the delay. I would say delay, the hiatus for the last couple of weeks, but we'll be back on our weekly do from now on. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please do leave a thumbs up, leave a 5-star or a comment or whatever. Leave your comments on the videos or on Twitter. Let Breezy know about his like how you feel about the whole Moyes situation at West Ham, and we'll if there's more comments on that, we'll bring them up next week. As always, Cheers for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Fuck Danny Ings.
And Anthony.